I think that in general, there has been before COVID a crisis of the private and the public, okay? That means that the private is less private in terms that the media is invading our privacy and controlling our moves and whatever we do, that before the amount of media that we consume wasn't around, the walls around us would really protect our privacy from the public. And this is not anymore the case. Our private space got very, very vulnerable, and we take that also, we don't mind to a certain extent, because we take the luxury, obviously, and the joy of consuming media. But that created, let's say, a crisis of the private. Giving this the crisis of the private, the public became much more attractive, because as you are not protected in your private, you also can be in public. That means that we take our devices, we take our laptops and our telephones and whatever, and work outside or party outside or do things in the public that would maybe otherwise have done in private. And this is for the public space a great chance, because we love obviously to see other people doing actually private things in the public. Actually, that's attractive. I mean, and it used to be a little bit less than it is now. It used to be much more when the people were poor and had small apartments, so they went out and lived their life in the public space because their apartments were too tight. But since there is wealth and people have big apartments, people stop to use the public space as much. But now that the private space is not protecting your privacy, you just go out and leave it out there. So if it's on display anyway, then you can also put it on display on the public space. Doing it, however, you make you willingly visible, and it's almost a kind of a coming out. No, it's like not being in the closet anymore, being outside and showing and being proud of whatever you are, and contributing, let's say, to the city theater. No, and in Berlin, that it's full of crazy egomanics. It's like you just go on the street, you take the metro, and it's a big joy. You don't need culture. You don't need theater, actually. You just go on the street, because there's so many people willing to display their talent, that you go in a park and it's a big joy to see what is happening there, how people live out their interests and their life in front of others, and this is a real social contribution, I would say, because it shows what is around. And if you go to Tempelhof, that is one of my favorite parks ever. It's full of life, and it's a big joy. So, and COVID just, I think, multiplied it. I mean, just make all this development that was there before just even stronger, because people started to do more home office, and then home office also could be park office, because it doesn't matter if you go with your laptop and the weather is nice, you also can be sitting somewhere outside and doing your job, So suddenly the public space is not anymore for, let's say, public, or also not anymore even for leisure. It was before public or leisure. Now it's actually also workspace, productive space. So that in that concern, I think we also have to rethink, maybe to a certain extent, if there are changes needed in terms of design to encounter these changes. I think it's important to have all these things being part of the design, and I think tables, other let's say other areas that allow yourself, for example, to have a meeting outside in a park, if you are working in a park or in a public space. In the end, it's tables and sitting, let's say different ways of sitting. Maybe it's a round bench that creates a kind of a circle for a meeting of, I don't know, 5 people. Maybe before COVID or before this crisis of private and public wouldn't have been really useful, because maybe people would feel intimidated to sit there with strangers in a kind of intimacy. But suddenly, if you meet your team and you even need a little bit of distance, then suddenly this round bench becomes a total device for meetings, And so we are reacting with furniture mainly to these things. However, I think that the best public spaces are those that also allow the user somehow to adapt them also to their needs, and that one has to be careful to overdo them as well. So, but it really depends where you do it. Certain places have, as I say, professional users, and they don't need much because they do that themselves what they need. You just have to give them a surface like a computer. It has to be like a device, but then they're creative enough to do something with it. But you don't need to precondition them too much. But in certain cities, people are more shy or maybe not willing or don't have the creativity to be professional users. And in those places, you need more encouragement and more things to show how this thing can change. But in the end, two things are necessary. Electricity, I think, is an issue because you have to charge your devices. They didn't invent yet batteries that hold forever. You need a good internet connection, that is public and best for free. And if you have these two things, usually the rest also happens out of the people. And I also love when the people take their chairs. I've seen people having like dinners in Berlin on the street, like taking their tables down because they needed the distance with their neighbors, so then they are sitting silently with the table. So this occupation of the public space is a total fascinating process, and yeah, I think it's great. I think it's a positive outcome.